Hello, welcome to our podcast. Would you maybe firstly like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So thank you for having me. My name is Helene. I'm a social work student from Finland. And yeah, I have been working as a social worker already few years now, and I have been working with adults and children and with different groups. Um, and in my free time, I have been quite active in activism related to ecological issues and also animal rights and human rights. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. If we start with the first question, why is climate change a social work issue?
Yeah, I think it really is a social work issue. If we think about our values in social work, so we do aim for supporting the well-being of people and also the rights of people. So when climate change is threatening the lives of us and the future generations, I think it really is a social work issue. So in practice, I think climate change is uh, impacting our living conditions, our food security, our clean air or water. So all these basic things that we need for living and for healthy lives. So yeah, there are many different impacts with climate change for
Okay.
sure.
Have the impacts of the climate crisis emerged in your clients' everyday lives?
No, I would actually say no, not yet that much, at least in Finland. But of course, I have noticed there are some mental health problems, and people may experience anxiety or psychological distress when it comes to environmental changes or the future. How do young people, for example, see their futures in this
Mm.
in this environment and in this world? So
Okay.
mm.
You already mentioned it, but maybe can you tell us more about, yeah, how clients or like people that you work with are experiencing environmental concerns? Like, did they tell you something about it, or like, what are they talking about it? And
Yeah, for example, some young people have been saying that they are worried about their livelihoods. What do they do, or what they should do as a profession in the future? Or can they maybe have children, or should they have children and families? So I think they are quite worried about these really basic things
mm,
that young people shouldn't be worried about.
yeah, yeah, I think also, like, as you're describing it, like those things are not like taken for granted anymore. At least that's how I understand it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Okay, has your workplace discussed the impacts of the climate crisis on social work?
To be honest, no, we haven't been discussing it. I have been working in different services in different cities, and I would say no, we haven't talked about the environment at all.
Mm,
Yeah, in my studies, some discussion has been done, but not at the workplaces. No.
okay. Um, Also, then probably you think that social workers are not really trained for these issues?
Yeah, I think we need a lot more education and training and implementation practice tips to our work. How
Mm,
can we implement
mm,
uh, considering environment or the
mm,
future changes
mm,
in our local communities? So I think we should really do active training on this topic.
mm. Do you have in mind any special skills that social worker has to have to deal with this topic?
I don't know. I think the most important thing is that we are interested in this topic and we think about our own values and our own connection to nature.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, so I think everything starts with our own beliefs and our own knowledge. So yeah, that's the main thing.
Okay. What would you say, how are social justice and ecological justice related?
Yeah, so social justice and ecological justice, they both aim for the rights of all humans and, for example, fairness and equality for all people. But when it comes to ecological justice, we understand more deeply that we need the rights of the planet and all animals in this planet, and protect them to have real social justice for people also. So it understands the
Mm.
interconnectedness and dependence on the planet and everyone
Mm.
living here.
Okay. Do you think social work should take a more active role in climate and environmental issues?
Yes, yes, for sure. I think we should be participating in different actions throughout the whole society, like when it comes to environmental planning or healthcare planning or whatever economical issues. We should always consider the role of social work when it comes to
Mm.
environmental problems. So yeah, we should be going to the different services and do more collaboration with different levels in the society.
Okay. How should social work be prepared to environmental changes?
Yeah, so there are many things that we cannot be prepared to because changes happen so fast or natural disasters happen so fast that we cannot be prepared. But there are many things that we can prepare to, for example, floods, heat waves, or
Mm.
wildfires, and so on. And also, one thing we should be really preparing to is the mental health problems and trauma related to
Mm.
these topics.
Okay. And the last question is, what does this all require in practice?
Yeah, so the most important thing is, I think, the education and training for social workers, but also the reflection on our own values as social workers and also in our personal lives. So I think that before we are planning activities with clients, we should really consider what do we do in our personal lives, because the most rich people and the richest nations, they are the most responsible of these crises,
Mm.
and the poorest and the most vulnerable people are the most
Mm.
affected. So I think us, maybe as a privileged group, we should think about our own
Mm.
actions first and think about our own values. How can we change
Mm.
our practices towards more sustainable practices?
Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course.